Welcome everyone. Now, I know I have been pretty late to the party when it comes to talking about Persona 3 Reload, but it did take me quite a while to get the 100% for this game, and I kind of wanted to wait until I fully finish this game in every way possible before I make this sort of a review. Basically, it's just an opinion since it's mostly going to be biased since I'm a big Persona fan and I have played the original Persona 3 as well. So I kind of wanted to tell you guys how I felt playing this game. So without further ado, let's get into it. Basically, the story in this game is pretty much the same as the original Persona 3, as Atlus did say they wanted to make it a faithful remake, so basically a one-to-one, and they did add some changes to it, which I do think are complementing and are definitely helping this game to be a little bit better than the original in my opinion, but at the same time, it's not a big deal. Pretty much the story is just the exact same as the original one. So for the people who played the original one, you will not be expecting something new for the most part. And for the people who haven't played the game at all, this is perfect as you don't really need to play the first one to see any differences. It's basically going to be the same thing. As for how the story actually goes, I don't want to talk too much about it as I don't want to spoil anything in this review, but basically I just want to say that I'm not a big fan of darker themes, but this game definitely has darker themes, especially when you compare it to other games like Persona 4 and 5 in the same series. But at the same time, it's done very well. Even though I played the original Persona 3 and I already knew everything that was going to happen, I was still almost led to tears basically from what happened in the game. It's just so well done. The cast is amazing, it's very emotional, but at the same time it is a Persona game, so it's very funny too. It has its moments for sure. The main thing that I do love about this game is that they have paid so much attention to the team members this time. Even though I don't like the other confidants, so you have your team members who are really well done, but then the other confidants I feel are not that great. They're still pretty cool, but if you compare them to Persona 4 and 5, I do feel like they are a little lackluster, especially since they didn't really add anything extra for them. And that's pretty much about it. Every Persona game is basically divided into two parts, which is basically the combat and the dungeon crawling, and then the other one is the social sim where you can live your life as a student and all that stuff. So starting for the combat, basically everything in the game has been overhauled, mostly due to the visual upgrade, and it's beautiful. I absolutely love the style that they chose, that they went with their own unique style, even for the all-out animations and all that. I absolutely think that they did a very good job when it comes to making the game kind of look like Persona 5 when it comes to the visuals, but at the same time completely keeping its identity as a Persona 3 Reload thing. The combat has been overhauled, especially if you guys played the original Persona 3, you would know that you couldn't even control your teammates, so that part was already fixed in FES, but then it's also here too. It's pretty much the same as Persona 5 now, where you can control everything, and it's basically like a quality of life improvement for most of the things that they have done in here. The biggest changes though, which I absolutely adore and love, are the new systems that they added. The main one being the Theurgy system, which is basically, in a fancy way of saying, like a special all-out attack or a special move for each character. I do absolutely like them. Every single character in this game has a pretty cool one, especially the protagonist. They have given him a few. Most of them are hilarious, while others are really cool. Honestly, I kind of now feel bad that Persona 5 didn't get something like this. It's so cool. On the other hand, we have Tartarus, which has also been changed. Tartarus has been completely overhauled, but you can see the changes that they made were pretty much identical to what they did from Persona 5 to Persona 5 Royale, where in Persona 5 we also had this dungeon that was randomly generated, and it wasn't that fun to grind in for the most part, but it wasn't completely necessary to the story until the end. But what they basically did in Persona 5 Royale was they added like different themes to the dungeon to make it look better, and also added some extra soundtracks, and pretty much Persona 3 Reload also does the same thing to Tartarus. They've added some uniquely cool designs instead of just the bland one that we had in the original one, and I absolutely like it. It doesn't change the dungeon crawling aspect at all, but it is visually quite nice, except for some which I think were just over the top, but at the same time it was awesome. Overall, I do think the combat is probably the best thing about this game that they have changed in the remake. I absolutely enjoy it. And now moving to the social sim, I feel like this aspect they did not focus too much on, as all the social links are pretty much exactly the same. I personally don't remember if there's any changes to them. I even feel like most of them have exactly the same dialogues too. But I do want to mention the biggest difference is the guys in the social links. So in the original Persona 3, the guys didn't even have a confidant like we have in Persona 4 and 5. So you could basically not even talk to them. So for that, what Atlus ended up deciding was they gave us this like story episodes per character. I think each character got like 3 or 4. I could be wrong, but it's basically giving us extra time to spend with our bros, as I can say, and of course with Koromaru as well. It's probably the coolest thing that they could have done, because I already like the characters in my team, but having these character stories just made it much better and actually made this entire team feel more like a family. They actually did really well. In fact, I also want to mention Akihiko, who is probably the most famous character in Persona, at least in Persona 3. He was already one of the most badass and cool looking characters, but with these extra story moments with him, you can actually see the emotional side of him, and I almost cried watching his story in the end. It's just they did such a great job making you completely immersed in the backgrounds of every single character, and I absolutely love Atlus for doing this. It wasn't necessary, but it was definitely very, very well done. In fact, I almost really want this to continue all the way through other games as well. Probably one of the best things that I love about this game is that this game is absolutely crazy when it comes to being fully voiced. Since everyone knows that Persona games tend to be on the longer end, most of the games are over 80 until 100 hours long, so it's very common for them to just give us voice acting for the good parts basically, but not for all confidants and not for all of their ranks. So if I'm remembering correctly, Persona 4 and Persona 5 only give us voice acting for the first rank and then the 10th rank of the confidant, while every single confidant rank here has been fully voiced. In fact, even the most minor details, even the most minor scenes have been fully voiced, which is so great, because sometimes reading can get boring, and I kind of agree with that. And at the same time, I do want this to be a feature continuing forwards, because I really want all the scenes to be fully voice acted in the upcoming Persona games as well. This is one thing that I absolutely think that Atlus should keep in their minds, because this was amazing. I absolutely enjoyed it. It made the game a lot more immersive and fun to play. As for the soundtrack, I think people might not agree, but this is my opinion. I feel like the soundtrack of Persona 3 wasn't the best. It wasn't bad in any means. It was pretty good. I loved the remixes that they have done for the original songs. The remixes themselves are pretty good, but it's like when you compare the songs of Persona 3 to like Persona 5, in my opinion, I feel like Persona 5 is just way too good compared to this. That doesn't mean that I don't like it, but it's like if you ask me which is better, I would easily choose Persona 5 over this. And also on the topic of songs, I am kind of annoyed that they only used Burn My Dread for the ending of the game and not for the beginning. It is one of my favorite songs, and it kind of sucks that they only used it literally for the last like few minutes of the game. But that's just a nitpick for me. It's not really a negative. I love that song and I love the remix that they did for it. I just hope that they did it more, or like use the song more in the game. Now, when you talk about a game and reviewing it, there are usually some negatives to it. Now, I'm mostly biased to the Persona series, so I'm pretty much gonna say that there's nothing wrong with this game. But at the same time, I kind of wanna make people aware, just in case anyone is watching this review and trying to get the game, I do wanna say that there are some negatives in this game, which you should definitely be aware of before buying this game. The main complaint that I have is the DLC. So anyone who is trying to buy this game, I would definitely recommend just buy the original one and not the deluxe or whatever version for the DLC, because usually I'm a big fan of the digital artwork and then the digital soundtrack, but for some reason Atlus made this weird choice that you can't even own the copy. You have to basically open it on Steam, and it doesn't even work without that. So you have to open it like a game, and you can only listen to the songs and just watch the digital art book right in that part of the game itself and not have it on your PC, which I think is very, very weird. I really don't have any idea why they did this. And secondly, I also want to mention, because this is a DLC too, the answer, which is basically, if anyone has played the Persona game, they all know that Persona 3 definitely needed the answer added into it because the ending is so abrupt. We definitely need more answers. And now Atlus has confirmed that the answer is coming as a DLC just a few months later. Although it does hurt the game in my opinion. Like, they're charging us full $70 for this, and even though I have no problem at all paying them more money, I do want to sympathize with the people who are just, you know, normal and don't want to waste money for no reason. So yeah, I feel like it's a bit scummy, or maybe just I don't know. I don't know the reason why they did this. It could be just for money, or it could just be for time, like maybe they couldn't do it on time or whatever. I don't really know, but I just want to let this be known that not including the answer as a DLC right from the start in the remake is definitely a bad thing. Although we will get it soon, we still need to pay for it, which definitely makes it bad in my opinion, because we've already paid a pretty big price for this game. And that's pretty much it. All in all, as for the conclusion and the score for this game, as for the conclusion, I do think this is one of the best remakes they have ever made. I feel like Persona as a series has grown so much because of the Persona 5 success, and I do want more and more people to be invested in the other games, because I do think that people don't understand that Persona 3 and Persona 4 were also masterpieces of their time. And because of this remake, so many people can play this game on the new consoles basically, because I know a lot of people, including myself, don't like to play games that are too old. Nothing against games like that, it's just that sometimes the graphics aren't good, or it just looks bad or choppy, or whatever the reason might be. Now they have nothing to complain about because the game is absolutely beautiful and on standard with today's generation. So this is like the perfect way, the perfect entryway for people to play this game in its best form, in my opinion. All in all, I think this game is a straight up masterpiece. Again, it is just as good, if not better, than Persona 5. I would like to give this an easy 9.5 out of 10. I would have given it a 10 out of 10 if not only for the DLC problems, because I do believe that it's a problem, like a real problem, because we're paying a lot of money for this, and I believe the DLC is not even worth it. But other than that, pretty much perfect masterpiece. I would highly recommend anyone and everyone to play this game. It is an amazing game.